everyone, my name is Belent and this is Hoka Talk, a weekly podcast series on both YouTube and Spotify. If you missed last week's episode where I talked about Euro 2020 and a Euro 2020 special episode, then the link will be in the description below, so feel free to check that out before you listen to this episode or after it. It's entirely up to you. And to make sure you don't miss any further episodes of Hoka Talk, including this one, make sure to click the bell on the video on YouTube and you will get a notification and every single time I upload a new episode of this podcast series. So, 8th episode today. I can't believe we're 8 episodes in already, but yeah, I'm just having a good time, and the podcast keeps coming, and all the lovely messages and support keep coming as well. So thank you to everyone who sent those messages to me on Messenger, on Instagram, and wherever else. It means the world to me, and it can really make my day, to be honest, especially if I'm having a bad day. So I can't thank you enough, honestly. And I know I sound like a broken record thanking people every week, but it is nice to, and it shows to people, you know, I do care about what they say and so on. So today, I'm talking about popularity, and I'll get into why as I go through the podcast. So to start off with, I wanted to talk about defining popularity. How do you define popularity, and what does it mean? Well, I had a quick look on Google, as I always do, making notes and so on I'm going to be talking about, and the definition of popularity, one of them at least, because there are so many and too many to go through really, is the state or condition of being liked, admired, or supported by many people. Our synonyms of popularity are, should you want them and want to know them, approval, admiration, and acceptance. And that's key, isn't it? Seeking the approval of others most of the time. I wanting to be admired by others. I wanting to be accepted by others. And you want to be liked, admired, and supported by many people. Many people being the reason why it's popularity. So, why did I want to talk about popularity today? Well, I was on Instagram last night and just going through it and so on, and I noticed I had 448 followers. Okay, that's not as many as, you know, let's say someone like Cristiano Ronaldo has, and I'll be mentioning him later on in the podcast as well, but that's, to me, is not important how many followers I have. And then I got thinking, how many of those 448 people that follow me do I actually know? Because, okay, my account's on private, so you have to request to follow me, and I have to either accept you or not. But how many did I actually know? So I went through them all and removed people that were following me that I didn't know, because, stupid me, I was just accepting everyone for the sake of it. So, after I reduced, or got rid of even all the people I didn't know, my followers went from 448 to 237, which, if you ask me, says it all. You see, my problem was, I was accepting people's follow requests, as I've already mentioned, because I wanted others to think I was popular based on the number of followers that I have. And it made me think, do we try and be popular to win the approval of others? Now, that is something, as I've already said, I'll dive more into as we go through the podcast, and just something maybe that you could think about too. By all means, let me know in the comment section below what you think about that. But yeah, I just accepted people for the sake of it, really. So if someone views my account, they'll say, wow, you know, he's got 450 followers or whatever. You know, fair play, you know, he's clearly got something about him. But after I got rid of them, all that I didn't know, because really I only want people following me that know me and I know them in return. Because you can't really trust anyone nowadays, can you? Especially on social media. So from 448 down to 237, and really, I pose a challenge and pose this to the listeners as well today. And thank you for listening if you are here, as always. Go through your lists of followers on Instagram. Be it you have a private account or an account where anyone can just follow without having to request you. How many of them do you actually know? Hand on your heart, you know? But anyway, that's something I wanted to mention because I was looking for Instagram last night, and you know what? I'm okay with only 237 followers. It doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, it is just a number. And from me saying that, you'll probably get an idea of my thoughts on what being popular is and so on, and whether it really matters to me. So again, do we try and be popular to win the approval of others? And I want you to, if you take anything away from this podcast today, keep that in mind. Because as far as I'm concerned, then okay, this is my opinion, and if you disagree with me, that is okay, and it's completely up to you. But popularity, as far as I'm concerned, comes and goes. And what I mean by that is, one day you can be at the height of your popularity, so for example, everyone that can like you, likes you, if that makes sense. But the next day, you can be a nobody. And I hope that does make sense, because you could be in the limelight one day, But if you're always in the limelight, remember this as well. And I'm sure anyone who's famous can relate to this and see where I'm coming from. If you slip up, because there's always cameras on you, if it's a bad thing that you did, then the next day, like I said, you can be a nobody. People will remember the bad things you did more so than the memorable things. So that's why I think of shows like Friends, for example. Should it come back? And I know they had a reunion recently, but I'm talking about it actually came back. I'm going slightly off tangent here, but I'm trying to just explain my point further. If the show comes back, let's say even for only a season or whatever, only an episode, if it's not very good, people will remember that more so than the 10 or however many seasons it was before. So I hope you can see what I'm trying to link that with. One day being at the height of your popularity, everyone that can likes you, but the next day you can be a nobody. And I think that is really how you can perfectly sum up popularity. And next I wanted to talk about friendship. Now, for me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this as well, is not how many friends you have that's important. It's the quality of friendship, not the quantity. Because I can, count on the number of my fingers how many friends I actually have that I can call my proper and true friends. Not someone who will message me for only when they need a hand with something or when they want something from me. Friends that I've actually been friends with for as long as I can remember. And this is what I mean, the quality of friendship, not the quantity. I've been best friends with two of my mates from school, Owen and Lewis, now since about year 8. And they're as good as gold. And, Amy I've mentioned before, I went to uni with. Jasmine, one of my other good friends. Tom, I went to uni with. Okay, that's like 5 or 6 friends. But that's what I mean, is the quality of friendship. It doesn't matter how many you have. It's the quality that matters, not the quantity. Because you could be friends with 50 people. But how many friends, I don't know that's a precise number you move, how many of those friends even do you have a quality friendship with that are always going to be there for you? And not, like I said, message you only when they need you for something. So I hope you can see why I'm trying to link that with popularity. Now, sticking with school, as I mentioned, Owen and Lewis just then, and so on, I wanted to be head boy. I think this was in 6th form now. And I obviously went for it, and we had to read out reasons why to the whole year group, which is about 100 or so of them, which it was quite a daunting experience at the time. You wouldn't think now, a couple of years later, I'd be recording the podcast like this, but I've grown, and here I am. Here I am, even English. As far as I'm concerned, at least back then, I don't know how it is now because I left school, and this was a couple of years ago now. Trying to be head boy or head girl was, as far as I'm concerned, and again, as I've already said, you're entitled to your own opinion, but for me, it was a popularity contest. If you were popular, as far as I'm concerned, you'd be head boy or head girl, and if you weren't, you wouldn't be. Now, I didn't get to be head boy. Obviously, I can't be head girl, can I? I was a prefect, and I'm a prefect, the meme and or GIF, whatever you want to call it, the video on YouTube, whatever it was. That's not what we're talking about today, but the two that were elected, head boy and head girl, were the most popular in the year group. And if they're listening, that's just my opinion, and I can't help but have that opinion. And there's a free world, we can say what we want to an extent. But again, if you were popular, as far as I'm concerned, you'd be the head boy, head girl. But the bottom line is, if you weren't, you wouldn't be. And that is just what I wanted to mention about my experience from school and how I can link popularity to that. Because I was never popular in school, and I'm still not now. But you know what? That's okay. I'm okay with that. It is what it is, and I wouldn't change that for the world. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't change the friends I have for the world. They mean the world to me. And I'm okay with only having a number of friends I can count on my fingers. And it is what it is. So now I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of being popular. And I'll just run through them. You can maybe comment what you think about them in return. Is it really a pro what I'm saying? Is it a con, in fact? So, I'm going to run through them now. The pros of being popular. One of them is you can always be able to socialise with many different people because, for example, let's say your name is Cristiano Ronaldo. He has many contacts. I think he's got almost 400 million followers on Instagram. He's able to socialise with many different people because he's popular. And if you're popular, you can relate to that, I'm sure. You can, and again in Ronaldo's case, be able to throw and attend parties. and in fact probably just turn up to a party because of who you are. You don't need to be invited. But let's say you're an average Joe like you and I, for example. You can just throw a party and attend a party and expect however many people to turn up. Being the centre of attention and being looked up to, Ronaldo especially, and okay, I'm using him as the example again, but for good reason, as I'll get onto later. He is someone who's looked up to, and why he's looked up to, in particular something he did recently I'll also discuss, but he is the centre of attention. He is one of the greatest players to grace the game of football, along with the likes of Messi and so on. But we're not talking about who's better today. That can be something we can discuss in a later episode, should people want me to. But he's the centre of attention. He's always looked up to, and is really a role model. And that is a pro of being popular if you know how to use it. And I'll get onto that as well later in the podcast. Having a strong support system around you in times of need. If you're feeling down and so on, if you're popular, there will always be people around you, because you're popular, that can lend you a helping hand and so on. But on the flip side of that, even if you are popular and so on, sometimes there might not be people around you in times of need. So that's kind of a bit of a pro and a con, really, if you think about it. And again, it's the same with the next point, being bored less often or not at all. Now, if you're popular and you're able to socialise with many different people, as I mentioned earlier, or just then, it's likely that you're not going to be bored as often as someone who doesn't, let's say, have being popular behind them and so on. Being bored less often or not at all. That is another pro of being popular, I think anyway. Having a more positive attitude towards life is the second to last point I wanted to make. Because, if you're popular, I think most of the time you will have a positive attitude towards life. And I think you should anyway, regardless of whether you're popular or not. We should always live our every day as if it was our last, or last even, going very posh down I was. And this is what people have said to me before, like, when are you going to start talking in the podcast? It doesn't sound like me. And when I say things like last, like that, you can see why. But anyway, having a more positive attitude towards life. I think that is something you should be having regardless whether you're popular or not, in my opinion. You can't always have a positive attitude towards life, but I think it's the key to life, to have a positive attitude. And this is one I wanted to talk about last, being less prone to committing suicide or having mental illnesses. And this is one of the cons as well I'll get onto in a minute or so. Because I think there's definitely a stigma around mental health, especially men's mental health as well. I think this is something I can discuss in a completely different episode and dedicate an entire episode to that. But mental health and illnesses and so on, and committing suicide, things like that. But I think if you definitely are popular, then you are less prone to wanting to do that or have a mental illness, because you have all those people around you and a strong support system around you in times of need. But that is, as far as the pros of being popular concerned, is that right there. And if you have any more, by all means, let me know in the comment section below what you can suggest for pros of being popular. But as with any pros, there are always cons. So the cons of being popular, and there aren't as many, I think, as pros, but not that that matters. Feeling exhausted from having to keep in contact with people. You can imagine, again, in using an example of Ronaldo, imagine the amount of people that he has to keep in contact with, the amount of fans he has, his agent, his manager, and so on. They might be the same thing, but that's, we move. It probably leaves him exhausted. He's always got the limelight on him, really, hasn't he? Unless, until even when he goes home and he's with his family and kids and so on. That can be quite exhausting, You feel as if you don't have any time for yourself, and it can become overwhelming, and it can push you to, as I mentioned earlier, with the last pro of being popular, committing suicide, having mental illnesses. Because it can be too much sometimes. The pressure of being looked up to, especially if you're such a big figure like Ronaldo, there can be a lot of pressure, people expecting you to say this and say that, be a role model. Because you got to remember, even if you are popular, you are still a human, and it can get too much from time to time. Being suffocated and having barely any time to yourself, and as I've already mentioned this when we took going through the cons now, you can feel as if you're being suffocated by, depressed by the media and so on, and people are always messaging you. And I've spoken to people before, and they said, you're like the 50th person or whatever that's messaged me today, and yeah, it can be overwhelming, can't it? And I know, okay, you can easily turn your phone off and so on, but those messages are still going to be there. They are. And yeah, It's not something I can relate to, but it's definitely a con of being popular as far as I'm concerned. Quickly, as I'm talking through this, I do want to apologise again about the background noise. Not much really I can do about it until I guess I have a proper studio or an office, but I haven't had any complaints about it, so I guess people don't mind, but I did want to apologise for any traffic you can hear in the background, because our house is on a main road, but for now it is what it is, and we'll just have to deal with it until I'm able to, like I said, have a pop filter on my microphone, if that will even do anything, or have a studio. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, being suffocated and having barely any time to yourself, always being hassled to help people out. If you're this key figure, let's say like Ronaldo, everyone looks up to you and so on, being a centre of attention, he probably always gets hassled to help people out. And okay, he probably doesn't mind even, but when he wants to take time to himself, spend time with his family and so on, away from the limelight and the cameras, it can probably get annoying being hassled to help people out all the time. And really, I don't know the listeners, you think about this. Do the cons of being popular outweigh the pros, or do the pros outweigh the cons? As I'm going through it now and talking about it, I don't know. The cons are definitely outweighing the pros as far as I'm concerned, but by all means, if you disagree or something else you'd like to say, come on and we'll talk about it, or just let me know in the comment section below or wherever else. Having your privacy invaded, and this goes in terms of paparazzi and so on, because I can imagine wherever Ronaldo goes, he's always being followed, isn't he? And essentially, that was me hitting my microphone box, having his privacy invaded. And this was when I was watching an F1 race in Baku last weekend or the weekend before. As soon as the driver gets out of the car, there's cameras around him and everything. He can't just have a minute to take a deep breath and take in the race and what's just happened. Straight away there's cameras on him and so on. I guess that's what comes with being an F1 driver, or an icon like Ronaldo. The second to last point then, in terms of cons of being popular, the likelihood of having stress and mental breakdowns. And this is what I was mentioning earlier of the last pro, being less prone to committing suicide or having mental illnesses. And I want to bring up Robin Williams, who sadly passed away a few years ago. I think it was in 2014 he committed suicide. And, okay, he had a beautiful house, a beautiful family, a beautiful wife, the dream job, making films and so on, living in, Los Angeles or whatever in the US. But even if you have all of that, you're still a human at the end of the day. And, that's what I mean. The likelihood of having stress and mental breakdowns can push you over the edge, especially with feeling exhausted from having to keep in contact with people all the time, being suffocated, having barely any time to yourself, having your privacy invaded. It can be a lot. And again, even if you are popular, you are still a human. You're not a machine, And I think it's normal to have stress in your life, mental breakdowns, but it doesn't help there's again stressed over things. But it's easy for me to say because I can't really relate to that, not yet anyway, and I hope I don't have to, but you know what I mean, I hope. And finally, being constantly busy with your social life, because if you are a social media influencer or whatever, someone like Ronaldo, again, I know, he's probably always busy, isn't he? Now, I don't know him myself personally, but you are constantly busy, and sometimes, again, like I said, you barely have any time to yourself. Okay, so some of these cons do basically mean the same thing, but I still wanted to discuss them all. So as far as pros and cons of being popular are concerned, those are some things I wanted to talk about. I will leave a link to everything in the description below, the sources I've used and so on, so you can check them out yourself. So the pros and cons of being popular I got from a website, and some quotes I'm going to discuss now, they'll be in the description below, so feel free to check that out if you'd like to. So, as I just said, quotes that I wanted to discuss in terms of being popular, and so on. The first one is by someone called Bert McCoy. Now, I tried to research who Bert McCoy is, but either he doesn't exist or it was just someone who made up the name Bert McCoy, but I couldn't figure out for the life of me who Bert McCoy was. So, whoever you are, Bert, I guess you'll be remaining anonymous. So what Bert McCoy said, and I'm assuming it's a he, be careful about trading your simple way of life with popularity. Popularity will not fulfill you in the end. So being popular then, as far as McCoy is concerned, won't satisfy you, won't last. And that's the same about money, isn't it? You can have all the money in the world, but it won't fulfill you in the end. You can't take it with you, let's say, when you die. And that's the same about popularity as well, like I mentioned earlier. One day you can be the height of your popularity. Everyone can like you. They can like you. The next day you could be a nobody. It comes and goes, as far as I'm concerned. And that links in with what McCoy is saying. You need to be careful about trading a simple way of life with popularity, because it won't fulfill you in the end. And I think that was definitely a quote that I wanted to include in today's episode and share with you. And if you have any yourself, by all means, put them in the comment section below. The more the merrier, really. But yeah, true words, McCoy's saying, you've got to be careful what you wish for at the end of the day. Because you can dream of being popular and so on, but when you then become it, should you reach it and make it that far, it can always be, it can be even not what you expected it. It's like, we're going to say, don't meet your heroes and so on. You could build this image of them in your head, but then when you meet them, they can be a bit of a crappy person and so on. And it reminds me of a show I watched. This guy's chasing this girl, and he finally gets her, and he realizes, I don't want her in the end. And that's what I mean about being careful about trading a simple way of life with popularity. It won't fulfill you in the end. Like, I'm popular now. Oh, but it's not really as good as I thought it would be, if that makes sense. The next one is a quote by an Algerian writer and active member of the Algerian and Arab Writers Union, Mouloud Benzadi. I probably butchered that, and I do apologise if you are listening, Mouloud. If anyone wanted to correct me on how to pronounce it properly, I probably should have checked before I started recording, but it is what it is, then I do apologise. Fame is a double-edged sword. It will make you gain status and popularity, but also lose motivation and creativity. However, on the flip side to this, in my opinion, those who gain status and popularity don't all lose motivation and creativity, because some that can use their status and popularity in a good way. And now I'll finally explain why I've been using Ronaldo as Cristiano. That is not the Brazilian one, as I'm sure you would have picked up on by now, to avoid any confusion. Using him as an example for the podcast. He doesn't appear to be a fan of carbonated soft drinks, because before Portugal's game with Hungary, which Portugal ended up winning 3-0, I think it was yesterday, Ronaldo scored 2 in the over by Rafael Guerreiro in Euro 2020, which is now underway, and he's been a great tournament so far as I'm concerned, at least. In a press conference, as I was saying, he doesn't seem to be a fan of carbonated soft drinks after the Portugal captain, and this is a quote directly from a website that I took, removed 2 bottles of Coca-Cola in front of him at Monday's Euro 2020 press conference before the game, encouraging people to drink water instead. And that's what I mean. Using your status and popularity in a good way. And this is what I mean by Ronaldo being someone who's the centre of attention and being looked up to. In a time where, kids are drinking Coca-Cola like there's no tomorrow and other fizzy drinks like that, he's using his status and popularity in a good way by saying, no, don't do that. Drink water instead. So he pushed the 2 bottles of Coke away and drank water instead. And okay, let's say if your mother and father, for example, tell you not to do it, you'll think, oh, okay, well, you might not listen, it might go in one ear and out the other. But if Ronaldo's doing that, someone who has almost 400 million followers or thereabouts on Instagram, one of the most popular people in the world right now, probably ever, as far as I'm concerned, you'll probably be more likely to listen, as silly, I guess, as that sounds. So, okay, fame is a double-edged sword. It'll make you gain status and popularity, but also lose motivation and creativity, like Benzadi said. But on the flip side to that, you don't lose all motivation and creativity if you know how to use your status and popularity in a good way. And that's key, knowing how to use it, and Ronaldo definitely does. Pushing those 2 bottles of Coca-Cola away and encouraging people to drink water instead, and he did drink the water, which was good to see, and fair play to him. And that's why I've been using him as an example. And what a performance as well against Hungary he put in. I mean, 3 more goals he needs to score now at the time of you listening to this and me recording this, to score the most goals ever on an international stage and for his country. I think an Iranian player holds the record at the moment with 103 goals, and Ronaldo's definitely going to break it. Whether a Euro 2020 or not is remain to be seen, but yeah, an amazing performance against Hungary and a great start to defending their Euro Championship title, because they won in 2016 with Portugal. But anyway, up next, I wanted to use a quote, or tell you about a quote, by someone called Lauren Wiseman, who is a music business consultant, speaker, and author. So we actually know who Benzaди and Wiseman are, unlike Bert McCoy, who is an anonymous figure. And I don't think it's the guy who makes, or the people who make McCoy's Crisps or the company. But I might be wrong, who knows? That's not important though. Are you commenting for popularity and to be seen, or are you commenting for authenticity and adding to the conversation? People are starting to notice the difference. Do you see what I mean if you understand that quote? Are you just commenting for the sake of it so people can see you? Or are you actually doing it for authenticity and adding to the conversation, trying to make a difference? Because there is a difference, like Wiseman says. There's a clear difference, commenting just for the sake of it, or commenting because you want to make a difference and make a change. And this can link into, players taking the knee that I spoke about a few weeks ago in the racism podcast episode, which I thought went down quite well. I didn't expect it to, but it did. So thank you to everyone who showed love on that, and with all the other episodes. Yeah, it's easy to take the knee, raise your fist and so on when you do it. But anyone can do that. You have to take this next step further, and linking this with a quote about Wiseman. Commenting for authenticity and adding to the conversation is more important than just taking the knee. Commenting for popularity to be seen, if that makes any sense, and I hope it does. At the end of the day, I wanted to end on this. Is it really important to be popular? Well, you tell me. Because, as I said at the beginning of the episode, I removed those followers that I didn't know, and it took me from 448 followers to 237, which says it all. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, and I did tell this to Amy actually when we were talking about it earlier, being a nobody, but she said I'm not. So, she always says the really nice things exactly at the right time. But, yeah, at the end of the day, again, is it really important to be popular? I don't think it is. But, you tell me. And tell me in the comment section below, or whatever, message me. I'd be keen to see what you think about that. But yeah, that I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you to everyone who's listened up to now, and if you're still here, thank you so much. And thank you to all the lovely messages I've had, people I went to school with and so on. It honestly means the world to me, and okay, for some it might not, but it can really make my day, and it's a priceless feeling when someone makes your day, isn't it? Thank you all for listening, thank you for being here if you're still here, and I will see you all very soon.